Thank you for checking in. This is Glenn Lyvers with Prolific Press. We have a wonderful group of the finest working poets today. This is March 2024, and we're going to start things off with James Bethel.
Okay. Thank you very much. Well, I was searching for public domain, and I settled on Robert Service's shooting of Dan McGrew and the cremation of Dan McGraw, and both of them are entirely too long. They're at least 5 minutes apiece. So I just switched gears and pulled two of my own for today. The first one is entitled Absolutely Rain. Foundations are crumbling. Around us is much fear, many terrified of a future for which there is no language, forced to face the consequences of our habitual denials in the face of absolute change, our lack of faith, fearful of an abandoned past, and the truth of our having lied to ourselves, and the rising impossible need to hold fast to the dissolution of everything known. We have become strangers in a strange land, insisting on using maps, the lines and names on which have now been erased. Our prayers fall on our own deaf ears. Drum beats consistent with those in our chests strike panic in our hearts. All our gods abandoning us. Strangers in funny clothes speak of gentle forbearance, calm endurance of the hardship and acceptance of the hardest truth. The maps have never been the territory. Grown men, most are men, little children, standing in a thunderstorm, shaking their fists at the sky, screaming, "It shouldn't be raining." While it is absolutely true that as long as we stand on solid ground, well, it is absolutely true that there is absolutely only one absolute. If it is raining, absolutely, it should be raining. Absolutely. Well, while we're on a philosophic bent, this one is entitled The Existential Philosophy of Ken Burns. Standing as we are in the midst of it, the music will get through. All you have to do is ask Pancho or Lefty and Willie or Paul or Bob or the poet out in Bakersfield who, unfortunately for us, recently died. If you listen, you will hear, and the circle will not be broken. There are hundreds who understand what I just read, and thousands who don't, and thousands more who perhaps may never will. But Amy Lou knows, and Emily knew. Eternity is just not that hard to understand. Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
Appreciate you too. And as you alluded, just to remind everybody that it's okay to read one extra piece today by someone else if you want, as long as it's in the public domain. Okay, John McMullen, please.
Okay, a little backstory. I've been in the technology business for over 60 years, and there's only been a couple of things that I've seen that were not just evolutionary. One was the first spreadsheet that took our personal computers up on everyone's desk, and the other was just recently. I've been fooling around with AI, and I did some chat CPT, and it was not accurate. The answers that it gave me, I told it to write poems, and they weren't very good. But I started using Copilot, and the profiles were okay, and the questions that I asked were answered properly. So about 2 weeks ago, I wanted to add my dog's name to my profile. So I said, add Val as the wonder dog, my 14-year-old Silky Terrier. And then I had to identify myself because there are a number of John McMullins. So I said, I'm the John McMullen, that's the poet laureate of Town of Yorktown. And it put something together. And when I looked at it, do I have screen sharing available, Evelyn? Well, so you don't have screen sharing. Okay.
Go ahead, try again.
Okay. Not only did it do what I told it to, it wrote a poem, and I had not told it to write a poem because I mentioned I was a poet. I had a dog. It wrote a poem to my dog. It was unbelievable. It says your dedication, so his, and it did this. Now I had not planned to do that. So it's to me it was the first thing since VisiCalc that made me sit back and say there's something different here. The poem I'll bring it down again. No, I'd done two other things during that period. I had asked it to write a poem in the style of Charles Bukowski, who was the guy that got me into this whole thing. And all of a sudden, that didn't come down properly. I don't know why. It's not screen sharing. And it wrote a poem that was very Bukowski-like. To anyone, and for some reason it's not coming up properly, so I'll read it. Anyone that's submitted with his work, you'll know that this is the kind of thing that he would write. Neon nights and whiskey dreams. The bar stool creaks under my weight, a worn-out relic of countless lost hours. The jukebox hums, spitting out old blues, and I nursed my glass like a wounded animal. The bartender, a grizzled sage with nicotine-stained teeth, slides another shot across the scarred counter. His eyes tell stories of broken hearts and missed chances. I wonder if he's ever tasted hope. Outside, the city sprawls like a wounded beast, its neon veins pulsing with secrets and sins. I've seen it all. The desperate lovers, the lost souls, the hollow-eyed dreamers chasing illusions. The women here wear their scars like badges. Our lipsticks smeared, eyes haunted by too many nights. They lean against the jukebox, hips swaying, and I drown in their laughter, their pain. The clock ticks mercilessly, counting down to the dawn I don't want to face. But the whiskey burns and neon calls, so I raise my glass to the gods of forgotten dreams. In this dim-light cathedral of broken promises, I find solace in the company of strangers. We share our wounds, our regrets, and for a moment we're all poets, all lost souls. So here's to the neon lights and whiskey dreams, to the ache that lingers long after closing time. May we stumble through life bruised but alive and find beauty in the cracks of our broken hearts. And then I asked it to write another poem just for me about COVID. And I wrote something that was a terrific poem in that it if I can bring it up, I will. one more try. It's not coming up properly, so I'm not going to bother with it. The point of it was that I asked it to write about COVID, and it wrote something called The Art of Losing, that explained that in the beginning we lost everything, and then we slowly came through it, and we developed tools like Zoom that we got into, and that we in the end had won, even though we had lost much in the beginning. And to me, that was rather profound, because everything that I tried before with ChatGPT was rather bland poetry. It didn't make sense. So thanks for listening to me.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. It's interesting, the Copilot thing. It popped up on my computer, and it took me a little finagling to get it uninstalled because it was not something I wanted, but it's changing
Well, it's from
everything.
Microsoft, and it ties into Office. So there are links in Excel and in Word that you can use. I've
Yeah,
only used it as a standalone,
yeah,
but
it's got its
it
fingers in everything, doesn't it?
yeah, it amazed me that when I just mentioned poetry, that it wrote the poem. Nothing I've seen like that has done anything like that. It chose to write a 6 stanza sonnet to my dog.
Yeah, that's interesting. And the Chat GPT program that is the one that everybody started on is really great at writing rhyming poems, but it's not good at writing non-rhyming poems. And the Copilot has surpassed it in its ability to the fool the people, because it has slant rhymes and internal rhymes and all kinds of stuff, and then it just has some pieces that are purely on different merit, and it's quite amazing.
Now, everyone that I know is familiar with Bukowski's writing said that gets it, that it's that it can pass a Bukowski poem, which is kind of scary.
Yeah, yeah, it's a real question about where we're headed, isn't it? I wonder if there'll ever be a day when I buy a book that AI wrote because I love the book. I wonder if I'll ever be contributing to Microsoft because I bought the book their AI persona made. That would be
Well,
strange.
I've since asked it to write a lot of Bukowski poems about this and about that, and they're all pretty good. And at some point, I may put it together in a book, Bukowski, AI, and Me. So we'll see.
Okay, Mary Gunn's coming in to sit down, and then we'll go to Lynette Esposito. I'm not as enlightened, maybe. I wouldn't publish anything that had any AI in it, whether that was started with AI and then altered or whatever. To me, that's if there's no heart in it, I'm not interested. All right, Lynette Esposito, please.
You won't be able to tell.
Yeah, that's the sad part. Go ahead, Lynette.
I lost you.
There you are.
I can't. Can you see me?
Yes, I can see you.
Okay, well, I can't see anything here. I don't know what happened. This is Lynette Esposito from Mount Laurel, New Jersey. I have a quote from Dorothy Parker. Beauty is only skin deep, but ugly goes clean to the bone. And I have two poems. the canopy. Long-armed trees dressed in summer green gave shelter from the wild-eyed sun on the morning our house burned to the ground. I would have felt empty if it weren't for the trees, who do not reach down to embrace me, but raise their branches toward the sky as if to celebrate life.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're muted for some reason.
You went mute.
Computer's down. I don't know what to do.
Oh, I can hear you now.
Where did it stop?
In between the two poems. So you're good. You
So
can
I
just
should
start.
read the second
Yeah.
poem?
Yes, please. I would love to hear
All
that.
right. I sit on the couch as an old useless woman, and yet, because I am standing guard, my 3-year-old grandson can sleep.
No, that's great. All right, thank you for that. All right, let's go on to Ron Lavalette, please. Oh, I apologize. Ron's not reading today. Bob Whalen.
Hi guys. I've got two. I had another about, well, it might be too political, so we won't deal with that.
Appreciate that.
And now if I could open it, that would be a whole other thing. Sorry, I wasn't necessarily prepared. Got it. All right. So recently, I'm back to having a lot of trips to blood draws and clinics, etc., etc. So I have this called waiting room. A carpet of colorless gray, plexiglass barriers at the end of the queues where you bow down to the Formica counter in order to hear the instructions through the slot at the panel's base. Then to obediently sit in chairs covered in neutral blue naugahyde, easily cleaned, sprayed and wiped with disinfectant. Couples host fragments of conversations where one translates the obvious to their partners or share everyday reports. Mail picked up, bills paid. So much white hair, all about to be ghosts here. Now they hobble, then sit down slowly, or just release their weight to be caught by a chair. Cell phones holding their frozen gaze, blank faces searching some unknown distance. Do the number of years they collectively have left total even one lifetime? I am one of them, awaiting the call of my name, to be led down a labyrinth of hallways with anonymous offices, where you can secretly plead at the doorway for the elusive magic of more time. And the next one. Now, this is interesting from the point of view that if they get the rocket off the ground in November of this year, it'll be on the moon. It's going to be part of the lunar codex. They're sending literature and art, and the landing of the capsule that's going to have stuff waiting so that they can build a space station colony type of thing there. And it's called Can a Bridge Be Built? Can a bridge be built joining heart with mind, so compassion is seen as logical? Where passion won't render reason blind and thoughts inspire the emotional? Can a bridge be built between body and soul where molecules sway to transcendent music as they dance to make existence whole and muscle enlightens the body electric? Can a bridge be built that brings hate to love where opposites learn to tolerate as acceptance expands through the sky above and dark impulses mitigate? Can a bridge be built to bring life to stone, its spark the zenith of creation, animating skin and bone to endure beyond annihilation? Can a bridge be built to span the flow of time, conceding its course and all its power, flowing from sources so sublime where eternities drift in every hour? Can a bridge be built across the gorge of death to pass that height but know no fear, without clinging to the final breath and say goodbye to all that's dear? Thank you.
Thank you. Beautifully read. And I have to say on that first piece, there's something about that line, or that couplet there where it says, so much white hair, all about to be ghosts here. That was, I don't know, maybe if I take my hat off, you'll understand how much I can, I can relate. That was beautiful. Very, very well done.
Thank you.
Everybody know Pablo Neruda? Yeah.
Oh, yes.
So a few years back, I decided that I was going to go back in time to all the laureates and familiarize myself with their work. I put this on our Facebook page. I think it might have been yesterday, but I wanted to read how he writes about loving someone secretly. The poem is called 27, but people call it I Do Not Love You because it's hard to remember if you just have them by numbers. Pablo Neruda. I do not love you as if you were salt rose or topaz, or the arrow of carnations the fire shoots off. I love you as certain dark things are to be loved, in secret, between the shadow and the soul. I love you as the plant that never blooms, but carries in itself the light of hidden flowers. Thanks to your love, a certain solid fragrance, risen from the earth, lives darkly in my body. I love you without knowing how, or when, or from where. I love you straightforwardly, without complexities or pride. So I love you because I know no other way than this, where I does not exist, nor you, so close that your hand on my chest is my hand, so close that your eyes close as I fall asleep. Mike Flanagan, please.
I have a couple haiku that I've been writing. And I'm in Minnesota, and with the weather changing, all kinds of things are happening. End of winter, the sharp crack of thin ice in the air. End of winter, the sharp crack of thin ice in the air. And this one is actually a memory from when we had St. Bernard's. The St. Bernard carefully tiptoes around the mama cat and her sleeping brood. The St. Bernard carefully tiptoes around the sleeping mama and her, around, I've been changing it as we were talking. The St. Bernard carefully tiptoes around mama cat and her sleeping brood.
Absolutely wonderful image. Love that. Okay, let's move on to Dennis Malsby, please.
Well, this is Dennis in Ames, Iowa. It's 49 degrees and sunny outside, but everybody's inside watching girls basketball on their TV set. I feel honored to be among this group who would choose to come here instead of watching girls basketball. I continue to write haiku, especially some that are genre related, and I will share some of those with you today. My empty heart fills with jasmine and fallen willow leaves. My empty heart fills with jasmine and fallen willow leaves. We lie on the beach, the tide whispers of Peter and Neverland. We lie on the beach, the tide whispers of Peter and Neverland. The clock pendulum cuts the head of a mouse. The clock pendulum cuts the head of a mouse. Blind in pea soup fog, growing closer, the rasp of claws. Blind in pea soup fog, growing closer, the rasp of claws.
Solid collection for sure. Very nice. Thank you. Okay. Ginny, let's move on to you.
Okay. I have two new poems here to try out. The first one's entitled Another Day. Every morning, the front door swings open and he appears. Stooped man clad in green robe, slippers, white ash ankles, hair unkempt. He closes the mammoth entryway, leans his arthritic back against panels before shuffling across the street to his flock. He tosses wheat toast he detests from linty pockets to geese that wobble from a lapping lake, to pluck, squawk, and hiss at the man who owns the dock, gigantic beach mansion, crumbling drive, dated Mercedes blanketed by autumn leaves. Every morning his mother stood before the blue flame altar of a gas stove, peach velour robe, hair set high in curlers, insisting between drags of a Benson and Hedges that Wonder Bread was pure crap, her copper teapot whistling the end of something. And this other one is entitled A Friend. In Lenox, Massachusetts, I searched for James Taylor. He lives there, somewhere. I have captured flecks of fire and spatters of rain since the age of 13, just to show him. And I am dying to know if I can become a moonlight lady. I think I have potential. I'm a daydreamer after dark with a multitude of song lyrics locked in my heart. But James wasn't downtown in the Get Lit bookstore. No sweet baby James in the pub on Main Street where I nibbled olives, feta cheese, and crusty bread, careful to keep my lip gloss intact. The bartender said he hadn't seen him around either, so I ordered more wine. My last stop in Lenox was the Gulf Station on the outskirts of town, where rusty mobile homes turned the snow pink. I felt better there on the A side of the state, land of deep pastures, dotted by bird feet, animal paw, where the Berkshires kiss the chins of clouds, hum something soft and kind, an album on a Zenith stereo system spinning round and round. Thank you very much. Glenn, can I plug my new book?
Yeah, of course you can.
So this is my new, it's a collection of short stories, Echoes from the Hocker House. My name, Virginia Watts, and it's available on Amazon. So if anybody feels like reading short stories, take a chance on it. Thanks.
Thank you. Absolutely wonderful. Okay, Francis Flavin, please.
Good morning, everyone, from a snowy Reno, Nevada. My my computer keeps telling me my internet connection is unstable. So if I freeze up, it's I haven't joined the U.S. Senate. The first poem I have has been published in Beyond Words literary magazine in Berlin, Germany, recently, and it's called Desert. Desert. I know this desert. Have felt her heat, dawn's warm caress of creation, her whims of water, the fiery womb of recognition for whence we came and where we end, hidden in plain sight for those attuned to the passion of empty spaces. Next one is appropriate to this day, March 31st. Old Man Winter is a tough cookie. Despite the calendar, he refuses to leave. Skulking in the backyard shadows, he does his best to dampen the day. But the daffodils know his days are numbered. They gaily rise to meet the spring sun as it pushes into every nook and cranny. It will finish him off soon enough. The wind's low moan is an echo in frost. And thank you.
Going to share The Calf Path by Sam Foss, one of my favorites. And then we will go on to Doug Van Hooser. One day, through the primeval wood, a calf walked home, as good calves should, but made a trail all bent askew, a crooked trail, as all calves do. Since then 300 years have fled, and I infer the calf is dead, but still he left behind his trail, and thereby hangs my moral tale. The trail was taken up next day by a lone dog that passed that way, and then a wise bellwether sheep perused the trail o'er vale and steep, and drew the flock behind him too, as all good bellwethers always do. And from that day, over hill and glade, through those old woods, a path was made. And many men wound in and out, and dodged and turned, and bent about, and uttered words of righteous wrath, because 'twas such a crooked path. But still they followed, do not laugh, the first migrations of that calf, and through this winding woodway stalked, because he wobbled when he walked. This forest path became a lane that bent and turned again. This crooked lane became a road where many a poor horse with its load toiled on beneath the burning sun and traveled some 3 miles in one. And thus, a century and a half, they trod the footsteps of that calf. The years passed on in swiftest fleet. The road became a village street, and this, before men were aware, a city's crowded thoroughfare. And soon the central street was this of a renowned metropolis, and men 2 centuries and a half trod in the footsteps of that calf. Each day 100,000 route followed the zigzag calf about, and o'er his crooked journey went the traffic of a continent. 100,000 men were led by one calf nearly 3 centuries dead. They followed still his crooked way and lost 100 years a day, for thus such reverence is lent to a well-established precedent. A moral lesson this might teach were I ordained and called to preach, for men are prone to go it blind along the calf paths of the mind, and to work away from sun to sun to do what other men have done. They follow in the beaten track and out and in and forth and back, and still their devious course pursue to keep the path that others do. They keep the path a sacred groove along which all their lives they move. And how the wise old wood gods laugh who saw the first primeval calf. Ah, many things this tale might teach, but I am not ordained to preach. Okay, Doug.
Hi, everyone. This first poem is kind of an ode to the winter that hasn't happened here in southern Wisconsin. I don't know if we even had ice on the lake here for 2 months, which is half the time that you normally see ice. The title is Anesthesia. It's below zero. The wind, a guttural murmur. Leaves gag the gutters. Gray days and onyx nights pile up like dirty clothes. The chimney's breath shadow dances on the snow. No prancing squirrels or scurrying chipmunks. A lone cardinal, picky as always, sorts through the bird feeder seeds. Indoors, staring outdoors, frigid air seeps and creeps through window joints and seams. The hot water baseboards click and cluck, radiate welcome heat. Yesterday, I watched snowflakes bounce on the air's trampoline. Today, white koala clutches one side of the trees. The lake ice, a gray sheet, the wind wisps with snow, groans as if dreaming. There is an endlessness, a beginning long lost, the cold's grip numb. A pair of great horned owls hoot a hint of change. And this second poem is entitled Six Pruners. I need to have a garage sale of the past. The rake with twisted tines, a chainsaw in need of a chain denture, a snowblower that huffs and puffs, the wheelbarrow with a limp, shovels frosted with dried mud, a lawnmower that refuses to wake up. The hose, a coiled green snake, refuses to straighten out. Lawn chairs folded like napkins, stacked like firewood, darts, cornhole bean bags, cocaine mallets and badminton rackets, patient fishing poles standing in the corner, spray cans sworn to loosen bolts or lubricate the seldom used, plastic containers whose contents shrink and shrivel anything green, and the rusty bolt cutter bought at another garage sale that never opened its jaws, never spoke harshly to a lock who had lost its combination. What makes me think tired and worn out would appeal to anyone other than an aged man who spends his day in the garage tinkering with lost memories? Thanks.
Thank you. That was just delightful. All right, somewhere around here we have Marcus Benjamin Ray Bradley.
Hi, everyone. Greetings from Kentucky, where we are still mourning last weekend. What can you do? I wish John had stayed on because I was going to mention that this poem could be the morning after whiskey and neon nights. It's called Deflated. Sitting in the breakfast nook, slowly sipping black coffee, the morning after hosting a blowout birthday party that raged into the wee hours, slightly before the children rose. I'm looking at the balloons that were still reaching up to touch the high ceiling when we had our last round. Now they're on the hardwood, expressing my state of being. The next one, it is lots longer. It meanders a little bit, called Concrete Impressions. There's a section of sidewalk that has impressions of footprints left behind by some unknowing, not to mention smallish critter. I can't help but wonder about what scampered across when the cement was thick, gray mud still losing its softness. It would not have left this square without a coat of residue on the soft pads of its paws that continued to dry and harden, until it was a layer of protection from the hot, cold, or pointy, providing an extra advantage for survival in the natural world that can make it feel as though maybe, just maybe, it had somehow gained a superpower, some edge that other animals don't enjoy, swelling its sense of confidence and willingness to take risks until the dried cement crumbles into sickly sand and falls away. And the realization sinks in that this is not particularly special or more deserving of longevity than anything else created. That not all things can endure. Even the fresh slab of sidewalk with the paw-sized divots will eventually be weather-worn by a rhythm of freezing and thawing, followed by the greening cracks of nature's fingers poking holes in our best efforts at permanence. Thank you.
Thank you. Really, really well done. And not sure what's going on in your life, my friend, but we love you, Marcus. You're a good guy, and we love your work. We really appreciate that. That was just so tender and wonderful. Peter Uremko, please.
Hi, I'm Peter Uremko. I'm in New Haven, Connecticut. First poem I wanted to read was the guest poem we were invited to read today. I chose Otherwise by Jane Kenyon because I teach a class with the American Cancer Society for cancer patients and their caregivers on how to write poetry as a way to address the stress of a cancer diagnosis. And this is one of the poems I read and we talk about in the session. And it's very powerful. And I've had 2 people so far have been moved to tears by it. So I thought I'd share it with you. I got out of bed on 2 strong legs. It might have been otherwise. I ate cereal, sweet milk, ripe, flawless peach. It might have been otherwise. I took the dog uphill to the birchwood. All morning I did the work I love. At noon I lay down with my mate. It might have been otherwise. We ate dinner together at a table with silver candlesticks. It might have been otherwise. I slept in a bed in a room with paintings on the walls and planned another day just like this day. But one day I know it will be otherwise. And the other is one of mine, a new one. It's called Facade. From my window, I witnessed the view being diminished by an apartment building going up across the street. 20 high-ceilinged stories to be home to 1,000 suffering, striving, sexing, rent-paying souls. Its facade is faux brick, ascending from sidewalk to summit. When it's finished, passers-by will surely marvel at the sight and wonder how each brick is so precisely placed, surely by the knotted hands of weathered old workmen from Italy, a lineage known down the centuries for work in masonry. But I can't stand here any longer wasting time gazing, for I must get about the day's business. And I turn away and sit down at the makeup table to put on my face. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Great selections. Before the event started today, I was talking to Lynette, and I mentioned that sometimes people ask me how can they do something like this, because they catch our stuff on YouTube or something. How do I put I don't know what kind of magic happened here. We just have such a good group, and I just don't know if you could reproduce this, no matter what resources you might have or how much energy you put into it. And I just appreciate you guys all so much. Bob Moreland.
So let me unmute. I'm Bob Moreland. I am from Pleasant Prairie, Wisconsin, a little house on the prairie near the lake. And I'm going to hawk a book real quick. It's not mine. And it's actually a collection by Ted Kooser when he was poet laureate. It's called How to Eat This Poem. It's $2. This book has so many good things in it. But since we were supposed to read something in the public domain, I agonized and agonized. And I'll start with Emily Dickinson. I'm nobody. Who are you? Are you nobody too? Then there's a pair of us. Don't tell. They'd advertise, you know. How dreary to be somebody. How public, like a frog. To tell one's name the livelong June to an admiring bog. So that's public domain. And it's March. We actually had our Easter egg hunt up in Sturtevant earlier in the day with the Scouts. So we have a rather large lake, Michigan. This poem appeared in an anthology on water, and it is called In Like a Line. This is mine. Sound overwhelms him long before he sees the east wind gust driving huge lake breakers. He finds his way with care down to the beach, half moon enshrouded by threatening clouds. In the dark, he feels spray swept from the crest. As his eyes adjust to the night, he sees scores of whitecaps form and dissolve westward. Crashing surf smacks beach barricades misting. The noise deafening as squadrons of swells rise and grow to disappear, meet the shore. Northward, Kenosha Harbor blurs in spray. Stormy sea, wind point light, flashes, then gone. High water mark washed away as waves surge, sand wet dries to ruddy dullness again. As the onslaught continues, his parka soaked, he recalls March Atlantic storms back east. Great Lake stretches beyond his horizon, his mortality clear facing this gale. How do the captains navigate these storms? In awe of the majesty key type home. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If you're going to buy some Ted Kooser work, you might also consider he's got a book called Delights and Shadows. Of the books that I've read of his, that was my favorite. And yeah, he's an exceptional poet, obviously. Okay, Carol.
Well, Wisconsin is well represented today. I'm from the North Woods of Wisconsin, but I recognize Bob Moreland's landscapes. I taught at the university in Kenosha for many, many years, Bob. It must be in the public domain. James Cruz put it on Instagram, and I am becoming a fan of James Cruz poetry. So I'm going to read After the Fire. And then I'll read one 3-line poem of my own. After the fire, let me endure whatever fires must pass through here, must scorch my skin. And if I have to feel the heat, let me also trust that, like the lodge pine, the fire will open parts of me that are still closed tight, releasing seeds I've been clinging to, hoarding for years. Let me thrive in this new clearing, made at the center of my life, seeing now how the necessary flames melted away my resistance, revealing all that once lay hidden, asleep in me. James Cruz. And I went to submit to 3-line poems, poetry, Glenn. Is it closed? I couldn't submit.
Yeah, it's temporarily closed.
Okay, all right. This is a 3-line poem in memory of my husband. Fedora slouched on a hook, work boots worn, heel and toe, won't be worn again. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so the next two poets will be Debbie Walker Lass and Mary Gunn. And then if I have forgotten anybody, please let me know. And I accidentally sent a message to Bob, which was intended for Dennis, but I just wanted to say, Dennis, I did not put it together that Ted was from Ames, Iowa, which is pretty neat. So you have to represent. I used to love telling people that David Letterman was from Indiana when I was living in Indiana. I was like, yeah, he was born here. All right, Debbie Walker Lass, please.
Hey y'all. Hello.
Hey.
Beautiful in Atlanta today. I think it's about 81 degrees. My goodness, it's warm. It's warm out there. I went to Home Depot and got a bunch of plants, but now they're in the back of my car because I raced home trying to get here in time. So I apologize for my lateness. I don't know if anyone here has ever heard of the poet Michael Kleber Diggs. Have y'all ever heard of him? He is wonderful. He happened to be teaching a free class with Authors Published. I don't know if anyone subscribes to that, but they give a lot of free classes. And I was just blown away by him. And this is his poem called Coniferous Fathers. And again, his name is Michael Kleber Diggs. Let's fashion gentle fathers, expressive, holding us how we wanted to be held before we could ask, singing off-key lullabies written for us, songs every evening like possibilities, fathers who say, this is how you hold a baby, but never mention a football. Say nothing in that moment, just bring us to their chest naturally, without shyness. Let's grow fathers from pine, not oak, coniferous, fathers raising us in their shade, fathers soft enough to bend, Fathers who love us like their fathers couldn't. Fathers who can talk about menstruation while playing a game of pepper in the front yard. No, take baseball out. Let's discover a new sort. Fathers as varied and vast as the superior forest. Let's kill off sternness and play down wisdom. Give us fathers of laughter and fathers who cry. Fathers who say, check this out, or I'm scared, or I'm sorry, or I don't know. Give us fathers strong enough to admit they want to be near us. They've always wanted to be near us. Give us fathers desperate for something different, not Johnny Appleseed, not even Atticus Finch, no more Rolling Stones, no more lazy boy dads reading newspapers in some other room. Let's create folklore side by side, in a garden singing psalms about abiding, just that, abiding, being steadfast, present, evergreen, and ethereal. Let's make the old needles soft enough for us to rest on, dream on, next to them. He's awesome. And now if I can just take a minute to get to I have one about my father who I lost last year and still dealing with it, but it's just a very short story. And this was in Punk Monk magazine. Punk Monk, that's an interesting name, but I was glad they took it. It's called After Scratching Off a Lottery Ticket, My Father Died. The sky pelted rain on and off during the 3-day vigil we held in Dad's stark ICU room. Red-eyed and starving, we stood in our hunched-over way, slurping astringent coffee, or sat tentatively perched on the edge of white molded plastic chairs. Dad, uncomfortably full of tubes and lifelines he never wanted, because apparently a DNR holds no sway when a person codes in an ambulance. Slowly and effortfully brought a buffalo nickel to the surface of a $50 lotto ticket. Bending his confined hands, flexing his gracile fingers, etching away at the filmy gray covering, his face exuded radiance. Having defied the odds of dying via the botched CPR attempt that left him alive, but with a gaping hole in his right lung, the good one, the one not totally filled to the brim with the ravages of COPD, he stared at the ticket, eyes glowing with the shine of a winner. The left lung was formerly the bad one until a burly guy in a blue uniform blew out the right one as he hand-handed my fragile, strong, limitless father, my gruff, sweet, luminous pops. Repositioning himself in the slim, childlike bed and summoning all of his considerable willpower, his intense gaze locked downward, slightly cataract eyes burrowing into the revealed numbers. I heard him whisper through his dent-cracked throat, 14 win streak. I need one more. Daddy needs a new pair of shoes. Surreptitiously, I snapped a before photo of him, unruly silver hair haloing his rugged, handsome face, before his smile shrank as he realized that this ticket was a loser. I knew right then everything else would be after. Indeed, the next day we cried rivers, our rain welling outward as he vacated his earthly body, quiet, unrattled, dignified, leaving us as he had lived, perhaps lucky.
Wow. Sorry for your loss. I recently had on my webpage, there's a little link when people hire me to mentor them on poetry. I go through their stuff, and there's this really young poet, aspiring poet, that lost her father and asked me, how do you get over it? You don't get over it. You just learn to live with it better. You spend the rest of your life learning to live with it better. And I think everybody feels that. Mary Gunn, please.
Thanks, Glenn, and hello to everybody else there. I'm sorry for coming to you late today, but your clocks have changed and ours hadn't. We're not changing until tonight, so that explains why I was late. I just got one haiku for you today. The sprightly pensioner shows off her polished toenails. Easter sunshine. I'll read that again. The sprightly pensioner shows off her polished toenails. Easter sunshine. That was published in a haiku journal called Seashores. It's a print journal that's published in Ireland. And
Neat.
that finishes my reading for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Really appreciate you being here and spreading a little happy at the end of the event here is wonderful. Thank you everybody for coming. I guess that wraps up March, and I hope that I see you all back here for April, and we'll be thinking of rain as a theme, one of the themes for April, rainy. And I'm going to end the event now. Thank you all so much.